Welcome to the sixth in our collaborative webinar series, sponsored by the Telwar and Open Society University Networks. The series has highlighted how civically engaged universities and the folks who teach and study at them have adapted to our new reality, which includes sometimes technical difficulties. This collection of stories has offered both strategies for taking action and hope. That all of us together can and should act to address the challenges we are now facing in our communities. Today, we welcome 5 of our 10 student winners of the COVID Undergraduate Award. These were some of the hardest decisions we had to make, narrowing down a pool of over 300 students to the stellar awardees that we have here today. We are proud to feature our winners who give us a snapshot of how students, while in the midst of wrestling with the personal impacts of the pandemic, chose to act. Our students, together with the communities around the world with which they have worked, brought to bear their talents to help mitigate the suffering and bring relief to their communities. Today, we're reflecting on that thoughtful action as students help us answer some questions. And here are some of these questions. What it means to act in the moment. How and why people choose to respond through action. And what are some potential roadmaps forward for all of us? My name is Erin Canan. I'm the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean for Civic Engagement at Bard College, which is one of the lead partner institutions of the Open Society University Network, and I'm your moderator today. And I'm thrilled to be introducing our panelists. I want to make sure everybody's still here. I think we may have lost, one. Hopefully she'll be able to sign back in. So today we have Daniela Aldazaba Gonzalez, from the Universidad Veracruzana in Mexico, Kivius Avery from Bard College in the US, Doreen Ajawa Marfo from Asahi University in Ghana, Fiona Nemoang from Livingstone International University in Uganda, and she's the student who's having some technical difficulties, and Tuong Nguyen from Fulbright University in Vietnam. Our panelists are creators, idea generators, collaborators, thinkers, and doers. And in the face of overwhelming circumstances, they worked with communities to act, and it is at that intersection of their action, empathy, and collaboration that we will focus today. Our takeaway from the series and these awards is that universities have an obligation to create a space for students to act, to learn the necessary skills associated with that action, and to take into account communities as partners in knowledge building, and that when we do this, incredible things can happen. So each of our panelists is going to take about 5 minutes to describe their project and what they did in response to the pandemic. And then we're gonna open the floor up to some questions. So Daniela, I believe I have you starting us today.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I want to talk about this project that we have in our community. Just a second. Can you tell me if you can see my screen?
We can see it. You're going in and out a little bit, Daniela.
Okay. Oh. Okay. So my project is called Urban Agriculture for Community in Pandemic Times. How did it start? Before the pandemic, we have a project about urban and peri-urban agriculture. It's a network of Jalapa that has been working for about 6 years or a little bit more. And we used to meet each other in a house to talk about a topic related to agriculture. And then after maybe half an hour, we used to do it. Yeah, like we used to do some practice, maybe a bed for growing food or a compost bin or something like that. But so we used to meet in a house and we turn into another house, and we go around the city. So it has a really big network. And but when the pandemic started, of course, we couldn't be able to meet at home or with other people. So we try to be at home, but we realized that um, all over these 6 years, we have created or we have developed a lot of skills to share with others. So we decided to make these groups for supporting food production at home, GIAPAC, it's like the name in Spanish. And these people that have been working in the urban and peri-urban agriculture network becomes a facilitator, and we launch an announcement through internet and invite people to join us and make groups, virtual groups, and not stop our food production at home, and um, share to others this knowledge. Why it's important to grow food at home? It's not only a matter of have the knowledge, but also the consciousness of that food is the basic of life, and food is the basic, and how we relate to that basic is how life goes. So with this, fortunately, there was a big like a lot of people wanted to join us. And yeah, well, I would like to share something about Mexico in COVID-19 context, because it's why I think this project is outstanding. Mexico has the highest levels of obesity among the countries of the OECD. So in Mexico, there is 1 in 3 people has obesity, which this situation makes our population especially vulnerable to COVID-19. And here we have some numbers, and I would like to stand out the people that passed away. So 69,000 more than that 69, and it's like very shame, because hypertension, obesity, and diabetes are like the illness that are like more the higher for these people to die. But well, how these APA groups work? As we couldn't be able to meet at home, we decided to make these virtual groups. And these facilitators are people from civil society, organization, government, students. Also, these people used to be related to this urban and peri-urban agricultural network. So we decided to share their knowledge to other learners. This is people that doesn't have, some of them don't have any knowledge about agriculture, but others they have. So this is like a community of knowledge. So these learners are people from civil society. There are also children, students, mothers and fathers, also academics from the university. So this is a really huge knowledge community. So how do we work? We do it through Facebook. The Urban and Peri-Urban Agricultural Network doesn't stop their activity. I mean, they every 2 weeks make a live streaming with a new topic. So we stream this, and we also have Zoom meetings and through WhatsApp. I think WhatsApp is the most I mean, the tool that we most use. And we put every facilitator has the opportunity to try their own strategy or didactic strategy to teach. And what we have achieved right now, we are about 25 groups. Each group is formed by 5 to 9 learners and 1 facilitator. So we are in total now 155 learners. This is people from Jalapa, the place where I live, but also from other parts of the country. And we have made a really lovely communitarian network of knowledge. We have created videos, infographic. We have select reliable and context adapted information, because there is no like the same for growing food here and for growing food in another city. And we also have a seed sharing strategy. We have like baskets in some places of the city, and we share our seeds, and other people goes and pick it up, and we don't have like any contact. Well, I would like to say that these photographs are from this network and from the people that is working right now and it's involved on this project. And I would like to share one testimonial, only one. These are more than one, but I will read only one. Isabel told me that GIAPA groups offers the opportunity of reconnecting people, each other, and to the earth. This allows keeping build from the basics, from the families and community. This is to say, it is an agroecology transition that attends the deep causes of crisis. These words, I think, reflect what in the heart of the project is being creating. And some of the testimonials of the learners, I would like to, this Kin APAC group is the group where I work. And for example, Rodrigo told me this process allows creating, keeping and widening the food production network of Jalapa by sharing doubts, knowing, and supporting each other. And I think this is like the supporting fact of this project is like, I think even we can create, we can grow food, or we can grow vegetables like here, like pineapple, which is very impressive in a city. It's more like that than that. It's supporting others, because there are a lot of people that doesn't have job right now, or there's some other people that is suffering anxiety for not having food, or for being only at home. But I think these groups are working and helping others. And what's next for us? We, in this process, we realized that there's a big group of people in the city that have access to technology, or to internet, or to a smartphone. There is another huge a group of people that don't have access to internet, or they have a technology gap. So what we want to do now with all this information that we have created is to make a book. We are working on that, and some manuals and some infographics that we want to share through a newspaper from the local government. So they are like in the willing of helping us. So this is what goes next, to help other people that doesn't have access to technology or internet, or they have a technological gap. So I think this project will help, will give us another perspective of food production or food consumption, and will help us build, to link people, and to link hearts, and to link hope. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniela. That was wonderful. I just will ask you to stop sharing your screen. And I think next up in my list here, we have Kivius. So you're up, Kivius.
Hi, good morning. So Thrive On, and specifically Thrive On Kingston. I'll back a little bit. So when I was 15, I started a project called Buffalo Ranch Project, which was based off of me eating a burger and putting condiments on that burger. And I realized that, what separated mine from other people, what made mine enjoyable was the condiment, that made mine unique, that made me push for finishing that meal. And I applied the same concept to life. What makes your life enjoyable, what makes your day worth it, your next day worth it, are the simple luxuries of life that gets you through it. And that campaign was, reaching out to a bunch of people to raise $5,000 in a week to create custom blankets for the homeless population in Boston and Atlanta. So that approach to understanding what it is to survive versus to thrive, it's what led to Thrive On, and specifically Thrive On Kingston. Initially, I came with the idea of doing survival kits, right? When the campaign hit, I'm like, how come when I'm told to quarantine, there are so many people who can't quarantine? What are they gonna do? We can't give them homes. We don't have it. We don't have the ability to give people homes, but we can provide them with resources that they need. And at the time, I was in the ELAS course with one of my really great friends, Aiden Galloway, and we partnered for this project to create Thrive On Kingston. And the idea behind that was to raise $3,800 to provide resources for the homeless people experiencing homelessness in Kingston, New York. And so we partnered with an amazing organization called Circle Creative Collective, who are these group of creative, amazing women here in Kingston, New York, that created handmade masks using T-shirts and any other thing that they had on them, and which turned out beautifully. They also created filters for the mask that could be cleaned and reused. And we've partnered with 4 of our support team members, one being Camellia Jones from the Bard College's Center for Civic Engagement, who then connected us with another support team member named Gregory McAuliffe, who works for the Beyond Four Walls outreach program. And he was also very instrumental in helping us understand what resources people need, since he was very much in the community. And he also helped distribute some masks. Another of our support team members were Sway from Student Activities, who also helped us with resource allocation and the best way to get our message across and really understand how to go about this, given this environment and the time we're in. And Peter Klein, who was our professor of that Engaged Liberal Arts course. So we sat with our support team and all of our amazing partners and came Thrive On Kingston, which is, one of, I think, in that time of COVID where it seemed like so many opportunities were shutting down, it provided us all with this sense of purpose, right? Like it ignited kind of this fire under us, and it kept us going during that time, which really, to me, captures what it is to thrive. It's you're giving a situation where the only option seems to survive, but then there comes this communal connection that comes as searching inside of yourself for things that you could do outside of what you're expected to do that boosts yourself, and that to me is what that thriving element is, and Thrive On versus now Thrive is because Kingston was in this place of where everyone collectively understood where Kingston was headed to go. Everyone had this better vision for Kingston, so they were thriving in a sense, and then COVID kind of pushed it back. So Thrive On came of like, wait, no, keep going, like Thrive On. We want that energy to continue, And so it was very important to us too in the kits to not only include things that people needed, but to create thriving elements inside of those things, like things to show, hey, we actually like really care, which is the decision to go with handmade masks, where every single one is individual versus, you know, bulk buying masks. To go really look at the products to make sure they're organic, to really look at the bags to make sure there are no plastics inside of it. And the bags were made by this amazing, through another support team member, Peter Klein, through the Brooklyn Press. We got a chance to go down to the factory and print the bags, and that was a really fun experience. And so we kept the momentum going and kind of told ourselves, all right, thrive on, thrive on. And now we've partnered with Paul Marienthal and Mickey Shrowinski and the amazing TLS organization at Bard College. And we're a TLS project now, and we've grown to a team of 20, where we have virtual internships and community volunteer opportunities for students, working with local currencies and feeding people at Tilda's Kitchen and Market and Hudson Valley Current. And we also have internships with Citizens of Local Power, where we're doing research into low-income communities on how to stabilize utility rates, and the creation of microgrids, and how does that look? How does that work? But mainly research into these communities. We're also doing internships. Oh, we have a team of journalists who, because we're launching our digital newsletter, which is a weekly newsletter, and they're writing about local thrivers, so people who are starting things here in our backyards, and informing people ways to get involved, but also international thrivers, so things that are happening around the world, and ways to get involved. And another amazing journalist who specifically looks at marginalized communities, and this person isn't even a part of the BART network. This person actually came from afar to join the mission, who does interviews with people from marginalized communities on what does it mean to be marginalized as a mentality, and the different projects people are doing within those, and expressing, you know, ways to get involved. We're also launching our Meaning in the Margin series, which is a collection of artists and writers capturing what it is to be marginalized, writing about that, really bending our mind to what marginalization is outside of the demographic context that we know it to be. And we are launching our Masks for Meals initiatives, where students buy masks, and all of the proceeds will go towards feeding someone. We've working with Tilda's Kitchen and Market, which is a community kitchen here in Kingston, New York, pay it forward program, where you walk in, and if you can't, like, anyone could get a meal basically for whatever you have, even if it's nothing. And so we're partnering with them to pay it forward through our Masks for Meals initiative. And the last thing, there's a lot. We're launching a website with merch and all of these amazing things. But the last thing is our Thrive On Greenhouse project, tagline being where hope is grown. And our idea behind that is a stable way to constantly feed the community, where we're learning about food security, learning about being one with the land, but everything that's grown there is directly given to the community through our Vegetables for the Valley program. So we're, it started off I like to say it started off as a blanket, because I wanted to keep that momentum going in my life. And Aiden is an architect, he's a co-partner. So we're really working, and I'm an econ major, so we both have the ability to create atmospheres. For me, it's creating an economic atmosphere through mainly through local currencies right now also, but for Aiden, it's creating atmospheres that people could live in. So I think we combine those in understanding this idea of thrive, which allows us to create these campaigns and initiatives and essentially they're like an atmosphere of thrivers. And yeah, so that's Thrive On Network.
Thank you so much. So inspiring. I feel like our panelists are thrivers who may be able to contribute to one of your newsletters if you have international opportunities. Thank you for that. Doreen, you're next.
Hi everyone, I'm Doreen Amako and I'm from Ghana. I'm currently in my senior year at Ashesi University studying electrical and electronics engineering. So growing up, I realized young women move from the northern part of Ghana to the south, normally between the ages of 9 and 24, to come and engage in a business. And that business is the head porter business. It's commonly known in Ghana as kaya. So what they do is they carry items from one place to another in the market for a small fee. And research by NGOs shows that as of 2012, about 50,000 of them were in the south. So the picture to the right is some of the ladies carrying pans to carry others' goods. So this is the team of Ashesi students on my left, working so hard to mitigate rural-urban migration. What pushed Lozele initiative to actually embark on this project is that these girls almost always end up in the streets and they become victims of all forms of abuse. Most outstandingly is rape, which ends in teenage pregnancy. So what Lozele initiative does is we leverage the resources available in the northern part and provide entrepreneurship training for these girls in order to provide them with some source of income. I am very passionate about social change and I envision a sustainable future for all through the blueprint of the SDG goals, no poverty and economic growth. Last year, we worked with like 20 girls who went into weaving, basketry, and then shea butter production. So before COVID-19, what we did was to research about events and then sell the product of these ladies. So this picture here shows some of the events that we sold some products. So I mentioned weaving. This is one of the categories for Lozele initiative. So the thread is transformed into the fabric, and this fabric can be used for both males and females. As you can see, it can be used for all fashion trends. Another category is basketry. They use normal raw materials, very cheap, like straws, to make these very nice pot bags, which are very cool for your summer. Again, we started with soliciting funds for the 2020 annual entrepreneurship program. So we started with the application process, which was the first phase. So we moved to Bolgatanga, which is like 1,000 kilometers from the capital. So we met head teachers and girls from schools. We spoke to them about the vision of Lozele initiative, and we were so happy that they were very receptive to the vision. Yeah. So during the pandemic, the initial plan was to work with high school students. That was the last thing we did. But then because of the pandemic, the government closed down schools and lots of these headquarters were sent back home with nothing. And so we felt that was an opportunity we can capitalize on and then maximize our impact. So we resorted to using both parties, that's the students and the ladies sent back home, while we deliver the same package of entrepreneurship module, but then with strict protocols of the pandemic observed. So these are some of the pictures from our training sessions. With the students, we guided them in writing compelling scholarship essays, prepping them for interviews and also their career guidance. Those who wanted to go into trade, we gave them the bigger picture of business opportunities in the northern part of Ghana, how to look for prospective customers and even how to engage with them coming up with sustainability plans, and also scaling their businesses. One of the wonderful things I'm proud we did was having one-on-one interaction with them, for them to share with us and for us to also help them as well. One of the challenges we face as an initiative is finding ready markets for these products, although they are very beautiful, but then there's low patronage. Again, fashion keeps evolving, and so we need to constantly train these girls in order for them to stay competitive in the market. Another challenge we faced during the training session was the fact that the ladies wanted to express themselves, or they used to express themselves in their local language, but most of the volunteers who went with us were not conversant with that language. However, we were fortunate enough to have a representative who did the translation for us. One of the pivotal things that stood out for me in this project is our adaptability to different work scenarios. Lozele Initiative has its own module, curriculum entrepreneurship module for the program. However, we needed to iterate on the content in order to suit our participants or key stakeholders. We needed to make it more relatable for them. Again, in as much as we wanted to stay within the scope of the work, we also had to exude some sympathy. For instance, one of the ladies had issues with transportation during the training in one of the days, so we had to step in to support. And so we learned that it will be ideal to be more flexible in your budget in order to cater for these unforeseen situations. So Lozele, this 2020 entrepreneurship program, we are working with girls, but now we are going beyond the weaving, basketry, and shea butter production. We have most of our girls venturing into weaving again, shea butter production, and then doing basketry too. We have some doing hairdressing, catering services, fashion, sewing, a whole lot of things. And so we are very optimistic that we are going to guide them in terms of mentorship and coaching. And with the ABLE team, I have no doubt of us delivering the best for them and supporting them in their business journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Very inspirational and beautiful products. Really beautiful products.
Thank you.
The images are lovely. I'm glad that you shared those with us. Okay, we're going to now, I believe, move on to Tom. It's your next.
Good evening from me, and I'm Thương, and I'm from Vietnam, and I'm currently a sophomore at Fulbright University, Vietnam, and I'm also a co-founder of Civically project, which is a non-profit educational organization, which is aimed to bridge the opportunity gap in education for the ethnic minority children in my hometown. And about my stories before the pandemic, we are focused on addressing the inequality in opportunity, especially in education for ethnic minority children. And to address that problem, we apply the design thinking process to understand our customer, to understand their background, as well as what they are truly experiencing, to understand and to get deep insights into their life, and so that we can conduct and design the community-based programs that can meet their problems. That is the story about before the pandemic. But when the COVID-19 hits my project, we are struggling a lot, especially, and interestingly, in Vietnam, the pandemic hits 2 times. For the first time, when we are preparing the summer camp for the ethnic minority children, the first pandemic hit us, and we cannot, and we think that we cannot run the summer camp properly because of the economic, because of the lack of fund. And interestingly and fortunately, the opportunity come from the Open Society University Network, and we have the grants, and we thought that we can run the summer camp finally, and we are preparing a lot to run the summer camp, but unfortunately the pandemic hit again, and it's so sudden and so immediately that we are pretty shocked. We don't know what to do next. But fortunately, we have a great team, and we think that okay, even we are experiencing the uncertainty, we can grasp the opportunity from that uncertainty. And as a team, we have to step back, have reflection, and understand the situation. We talk together, and we, for the first time, conduct a risk assessment to understand the situation. And we think that even in the uncertainty, we can do something for our community. And we decided to run two virtual activities. The first one is the virtual demo class to teach design thinking for the children. And the second one is to run a competition called Citizen Educators, which is mainly to raise awareness of people about the opportunity inequality in education during the COVID-19. And so far, we are still running two that activities currently. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to see how it goes. And after that, we are planning to conduct the impact measurement to see to measure the impact that we have on the community, and so that we can have the future improvements for the next project in the future. So I think for myself, the key lessons from this situation is that we have to build the attitude to embrace the uncertainty. Like as the leaders, you have to talk to the members a lot about the uncertainty, prepare them with the attitude that okay, the challenges may come very often, but the most important thing is that we have the attitude to embrace that kind of challenges, and we are preparing our best with the resources, knowledge, skills, so that when the challenge comes, we can know and figure out the way to deal with it. And as a team, we think the internal ability is one of the most important things. Like we have to constantly cultivate the skills of the team. We have to spend time together a lot in order to understand what we are doing right now, so that we can be mission oriented. So far, we are learning a lot from this pandemic, and we are really grateful for being here today with all of you guys, and especially having the opportunity from the Open Society University Network to continue my project. So that's all from my project, and thank you.
Thank you so much. You have wise words about how important it is to be pivoting in response to the ever-changing landscape. And I guess all of us are really honing that skill a lot. So thank you so much. And finally, Fiona, we're happy to have you join us, and we would like to have you come up next. Fiona, it seems like we're still having.
Okay, hi.
Oh, you are. Excellent, great. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My name is Fiona. I'm a student at Livingstone International University. That's in Uganda here. I'm doing a bachelor's in media technology. Well, before the pandemic hit, we had already seen it, like it had hit other places, it had hit other countries. So we had no idea how we could really go about it, because it was quite scary, and it had got a lot of people in panic and in threat. Particularly to be specific, in my community, local community where I come from in the village, everyone was afraid, because they said if the super countries, the one we regard as superpower countries, are really facing it rough, how are we going to manage it? How are we going to handle it here in Uganda, especially the people that come from the rural places where acquisition to medical care is really hard. Acquiring the sanitizers that were being preached about, disinfectants, was very hard. And so that was a little challenging, but I came up and said, we can do something with my local community to help everyone that is afraid. Preach hope in them, that when we come together, when we demonstrate solidarity together, we can drive away that fear, because once you get to attack something with fear, I don't think you can ever get to win it. So basically, I sat with my local leaders, that is the local council one in my village, and drafted ways on how we're going to help the community, especially my village, to be specific. Literally, I gave them an idea of coming up with 2 projects. That was the Give and Receive project. Basically, the Give and Receive project was to solicit for funds and food to give to those that were in much need of it, because poverty really was going to hit, since many institutions were going to be closed, and indeed, many institutions were closed, markets were closed, those that were dealing with groceries, they closed, public transport was closed, basically everything was closed. And a few people who are actually working with the government, the civil servants, were the ones that were going to have a monthly stipend to live on, unlike these others. And it was to my notice that many people had not secured food. That is still a challenge here. They can't, food security is still not a culture in them. Actually, we just introduced that culture recently with my local council team. That was the Give and Receive project. I launched the second one with my local council. It was called the Study at Home project, basically to promote literacy skills among the learners that had now come back home and were seated. They were hopeless about getting back to school ever again, because the government was telling us that we are uncertain. We don't know when we shall go back to school again. So that meant idleness was going to lead them to a couple of vices. Already they had started abusing drugs. Theft had already been reported to the nearest police stations. And so we felt that if we introduce the homeschooling culture, which has never been in Uganda still, especially the rural areas, it could help a little. So my family actually donated storybooks and different learning materials to these families so that it can aid them in the homeschooling process. Much as the parents are illiterate, I understand, I've not been moving out in the field quite oftenly because I have fear of, I'm trying to keep safe. But according to the report I get, the pupils or the students that are at home gather in small groups and guide each other on the question and answer sessions regarding the reading materials that I distributed to them. That was so encouraging, and I really appreciated that because they were embracing the reading culture and the homeschooling culture. I felt it was going to be a little hard for them, but thank God, they picked up. The challenges we've been facing is the heated political sessions. We are in a political period, just like many nations around the world right now. So it has interfered with our peaceful demonstrations towards working with the community, because now my local leaders, the local council team, has divided attention. They give me less time apparently than when we had just started working together. They're looking at money, like political aspirants are giving them money and stuff like that. So it's really hard to link up and then carry out the work smoothly like we've been doing. But anyway, I came up with a solution to that. Political sessions or the rallies normally come up during the weekdays. So I switched from doing our service from weekdays to doing it on weekends. And then our intentions have also been mistakenly affiliated to politics. Many people here think the government has a hand in funding my projects, yet no government has a hand in funding my projects. Literally, I'm doing it with my local council team, with well-wishers within the community who donate some little money. So difficult convincing these people people that it's not the government that is funding my project. And then this has led to over-dependency among the beneficiaries who feel they should be given all the time. And yet I have the regulatory measures that I follow to distribute the food, to distribute the money, to distribute the washing soap and the sanitizers. I usually do it every other week. So it can't be daily, it can't be each minute, because it's really, it has measures, criteria that we follow. So another challenge, land scarcity, because many sold off their farming land during the pandemic because they were not fulfilling their family responsibilities. So they have less money to take care of their families. And the only option was to sell off what they had. So I gave out farming seeds. This is the month of harvest. Those that planted are harvesting. And so it has really reduced my, like the cost of giving food to them. I'm now identifying only those that completely have nothing, or completely that didn't farm. We introduced, okay, because of that, I formed food security committee to help monitor the produce of those that are harvesting right now, and then to take note of those that didn't harvest at all, so that in case of, by the end of the whole harvesting period, we can meet again with my local council team and see how we can help these that didn't farm. Because I understand they sold off the farming seeds too, and they didn't really carry out the farming. We also plan to encourage those that still have land to do cost sharing, like merge to form groups of people that don't have land and farm together. You know, one group can buy seeds, or one group can bring seeds, and then the other can offer land for farming. And then we can see at the end of the day, during the harvest, how everything can be shared amongst them. We've also registered, like we've come up with saving schemes. We introduced saving schemes. This will help them. Okay, it's something that is new, that I introduced. It's a new thing. They don't have the saving culture yet. It was not in them. And so they were quite caught by surprise when the pandemic, when the lockdown was announced, when they said, no working anymore, you have to sit at home, you have to eat on your produce. It was a big blow on them. They didn't have a penny with them. And so that means they were not saving for their future. And so the schemes that I introduced of saving culture are to help them in the future whenever there is a calamity, or maybe take out loans to help them with the education, medical services, and so they apparently have started saving, because every week we give them a mandate to save the little they have. We have not really set the maximum limit or the minimum limit of the money to save. When I come to the context, like how I engaged with the community before the pandemic, I would really say I thought of improving on the livelihoods of the people in the community, because basing on my background, I really grew up in, I should say, a tough background. And so when I succeeded some time back, I felt one time I really need to help somebody. I don't want to see somebody suffering. And I thank God that when I joined my university, I'm a guild council member. And so my responsibility, according to the guild calendar, is to oversee all the community engagement activities within the neighboring communities. So we launched projects like rescuing victims from natural calamities like landslides. They're a lot common here in Uganda, especially the eastern region, to ensuring that there is a nice environment for everyone to live in. We created tree planting projects, and then to supporting scholars. Like apparently, like before the pandemic, I was teaching at His Farm International. I had a group of students with me that would accompany me to that school, and we could teach literacy and other stuff like that. So that was really encouraging because the pupils loved us. They were seeing young faces teaching them, because I understand they've been having older teachers, and I think that was really not good for their side. And I really miss the students a lot. We also used to engage in protecting the environment, like I talked about it before. We have a women group that we work with. It's called the Busamaga Women Group. We launched the tree planting project with them. The seedlings are ready for planting, but we are only awaiting for the end of the lockdown to have those seedlings distributed to these people who need the trees to plant them in their homes. The pivot, I was passion driven. That's why I had to consult different people on how to go about it, because I really had fear. How am I going to face these villagers? How am I going to face my local council? I had fear in the beginning, but I was encouraged by the local council itself. It embraced me and my ideas, and we had to get the whole thing kicking. The future is bright. Much as we set up the food security committees, people will learn how to secure food. The savings group, people will be able, like people have been adaptive to the cause. They've started saving, so that's really good. On our side, it's an achievement. And then whenever we meet with these people, like whenever we meet with the savings group, we always teach them different lessons about nutrition, for their families, about sanitation, and so many more. So there's a lot of lessons that go on. We also encourage the youth to use their abilities and skills to get on hands-on activities that can earn them a penny, because that was not also in them previously. And I'm glad these whenever they're in their idleness, they bake some pancakes, they make some samosas, and then hawk them around for breakfast, maybe evening tea and stuff like that. So that's how far I've gone with my projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you all very much. I'm just going to ask one or two questions, and if audience members want to ask a question, they can feel free to do so as well. If all of you could just think about back at the moment when you decided to step in, as the pandemic was hitting, many of you talked about having that feeling that you should act. Can you unpack that a little bit more for us and talk about why you decided to act in that moment? What was in you that you pulled from? And we want this to serve as a potential example for folks who might be feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes I think the news and the situation can be very overwhelming. So how did you manage to not be overwhelmed? Or if you were overwhelmed, how did you manage to not have that keep you from acting? Kivius, I'm going to start with you because you're like right in the middle of my, like looking at the picture. So why don't we start with you? Just a quick summary.
Yeah, I think the key to not being overwhelmed and acting in the moment is, well, one, if you have ambition to do it. And to be not overwhelmed is develop a really solid support team. So for me, it was my partner, Aiden, and then we developed a support team of 4 folks who are well experienced in resource allocation and community connections to help us with bringing the vision to life. So, and really depend on that support team. And I think for me, I've always been by nature a doer. So when it was a time that came to do nothing, I immediately opposed that. I'm like, well, I'm not going to do nothing. I'm going to do something. And that's something that I find that I will do will be beneficial to the community in this time. So yeah, that's just my approach to it.
Thank you. I'm going to kind of go around in my circle here. Chong, can you tell us what made you act? We can't hear you for some reason. there.
Okay. Before the pandemic, we have a short trip to visit the customer that we are working with, and we have very deep conversation with them, and we are very, very impressed by their desire to learn, because for some reasons they want to learn, but because of the poverty, because of the geographical distances, they don't have the opportunity to learn in the higher, and it's really touched ourselves. And before the pandemic, we have a very strong desire to help them to get out of that, little by little. And when the pandemic hit, I think the situation get even worse. So I think because they believe in us so much, so I think that we have to do something to meet their expectation, to meet their wishes, and also and especially when we feel empty, we feel struggle in the pandemic, helping others, helping the community is one way to get out of that feeling, to get out of the overwhelming feeling. So that is my story. And about my my work, when it is getting overwhelmed, I think I have the same approach at Kivius, like adore by nature, set everything aside and go out, spend time with nature to get the balance. And then I have a very good team members. We can spend time to have reflection, deep conversation, to share our feelings, so that we can share and get calm and take action step by step, so everything will overcome very smoothly. So that's my story. Thank you.
That is important, that you had set that expectation that you were going to be working with them, and so to find a way to keep doing that is quite critical. And what Kia said in terms of the support team, it's not just one person. It seems to me, and that is definitely having a network of people is important. Daniela, you're next on my screen. So
yeah, I think my case is similar to my partners, and we have the blessing to be in a community like that. We were working for 6 years more or less, so they were the people that help us to keep going, and say when someone feels overwhelmed, they support each other. So I think it's more like it's the power of community, when we the thing that we want, that help us come up and help us struggle, help us. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. But yeah, I think the thing in this case is the power of community.
I think you said that beautifully. I think that it sounds to me like you all have that in common as well, that the work that you did was a way to feed and support yourself, in addition to supporting the community that you were working with, that it was definitely a way for you to feel like you had connection at a time when we were all not able to have that connection.
Yeah, we are like a family right now. Mm-hmm.
Yes, very important. Doreen?
Okay, I would say it's mainly due to my passion to humanity. I always want to serve people, and being in a team with these young and amazing women also made it possible, because I have them share with me the same values, and so it was easier communicating, it was easier pushing each other to make this impact.
Thank you. And Fiona? You can't hear you.
Well, I always feel can you hear me?
Now we can, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. I always felt like I can be the person to change my community, to put it out of suffering and anything like that, because I always environment is to, you know, the health mind and the health body. So whenever my environment is peaceful, whenever my environment is not suffering, I feel somebody can be able to reason out in class or anywhere else. And so my family has been so supportive on that. That's why they kept driving me. Plus my supportive friends kept driving me and told me, Fiona, you can be a better place. Besides the passion, the people that love.
Thank you. It definitely seems to me like there's a theme here where everybody had some support of encouragement, and that to me seems to be critically important. We do have a question from our audience, and it's a sort of similar vein. How can we overcome fear of anything? So you all seem to act even maybe when you were fearful, maybe fearful for your own, sort of personal safety, maybe fearful for the safety of others. Maybe you had other fears. So let's see who wants to jump in, and then we'll go around. How can we overcome fear of anything? I can
do the same order as last time, but I think for me, it's a matter of tricking myself. So, for example, I grew up being an aerial artist, so I performed in a lot of places where I felt like I was an outlier, especially as a African-American male aerial artist, which is very rare. So I tricked myself. I'm like, well, I know I've worked really hard, and I know I will not have that moment if I don't let that moment outweigh my fear. And that's my same approach to any endeavor. I started a community market this summer, which I was fearful about starting, but I know people won't get fed in the capacity that I'm hoping they would if I don't do it. So the mission, like tricking yourself to letting your mission or your initiative outweigh that fear, to me, is usually the best approach. And then, of course, that encouragement comes with your support team. Develop people that know who you are and know what your mission is, and will support that regardless of what fears and roadblocks are put ahead of you. Thank you. We should have had you before. Who else wants to go next?
I think if you're fearful, you will lose it. And so the main thing you have to do is to surround yourself with people who push you and inspire you to be very daring and adventurous. Yeah.
I love that, daring and adventurous. Who wants to? Go ahead, Daniela. Be daring and adventurous.
Yeah, I would like to add that it's trusting in love and trusting in other people, trusting in community. I think it's the key to end with the fear.
Yes, I think all of you in some ways overcame fear. Tong, do you want to go next?
I think fear is such a beautiful feeling for me. And I read a book called Be in Peace by Thích Nhất Hạnh, a Zen master, really famous in my country. And he talked about how we should deal with fear. And he said that the first thing we need to do is to sit down and name our feelings. Write down how we are feeling right now, and write out why we are feeling in that way, and trying to have a very, very deep conversation with yourself to figure out, okay, why you are feeling that way, or what you can do. So just spend time with yourself. So I think it's relatable and it worked in my case. And so spend time with yourself and practice mindfulness So that I believe that you will figure out the way to overcome your fear.
I think reflection is so important, and I think using your the liberal arts, reading, writing, thinking, all of the things that you all have been doing in your studies, and sort of how that links to how you want to act in the world, and connecting to that that mission, I think is really a good reminder. Fiona?
Well, I believe when you work as a team, I think that drives away fear, like embracing teamwork. Gives you the confidence that you're not alone, you have somebody behind your back. So that's why I really bring out my whole team. I'll be like, let's face this together. And that gives me the confidence that somebody has held my hand. I'm not doing this alone. So we can make it. Yeah.
You all emphasized so much the importance of community, and that I think is a really important way to think about. We often hear stories as individual actors who sort of did good for their community, and we know that that's a false narrative. So it's important to remind ourselves as we're going through this that it's very important to be connected. That interconnectedness is what actually makes your projects work, because you aren't individual actors. You're really listening and reflecting on in partnership with community. You're not just outliers trying to do something that isn't connected to the needs that are present. I want to give you all about 30 seconds to conclude, because we are running over a little bit. I just want to bring up some words that I thought I heard many of you speak to today. You talked about strategy, support, sharing knowledge, consciousness. I think that was one of Daniela's first words. Networking, vision. There was a lot of discussion about labor of love, a lot of creativity, solidarity, entrepreneurship, flexibility, pivoting. That's the word that we've all been using, I think, during the pandemic, how we pivoted. So those are just some of the different skill sets that I heard you all sort of do. And I'm wondering if, in your conclusions, if you could just give either a word of advice or what skill set you think people should really be honing or advancing in themselves in order to be able to do this kind of work. Thong, why don't we start with you? I'll start with you this time and I'll go around again. Sorry, are you having technical issues?
I'm fine. How are you, Lydia?
And why don't we start with you again? And then we'll work from there. Yes. How about the start? Sorry.
Okay. I think the key is to understand that no mission is a solo mission, and no matter what you do. So, and again, you're only as strong as your team. So that would be my advice. In any mission, don't look at it as a personal agenda and or as you're the one in charge or the one ahead. It's always a group initiative, no matter what the initiative is. It takes everyone. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Fiona, what skill would you emphasize? Or what are any concluding remarks you want to bring?
Well, that's something that I would emphasize is really like keeping in touch with the community that we work with. I think getting on ground with them, because apparently we don't really meet them personally, so they don't know the people who are helping them out. But I'm going to sit with my local council and design a strategy on how to really get on ground with them. They really need to see the people that are working with them, right? So that this can drive away the idea that it's not the government's basically us. So that's it.
Wonderful, thank you. Thong, do you want to go next?
And sympathize, because you work with the community, which means that you will work with different stakeholders and work with people coming from different backgrounds. So it's really hard for you if you work without sympathy and understanding, because it can lead to conflict, misunderstanding, and sometimes it can overwhelm and make you want to give up on what you are doing right now. So try to sympathize and understand what you are doing, why people are feeling that way, so that we can commit to what we are doing and have a want to move forward.
Very, very wise. Daniela?
Yeah, I think the learning of this situation for me is to trust in the others and give the word to them and learn from them, from others. We are all related and we are all a huge family and community.
Thank you so much. Doreen?
So what I would say is open-mindedness. In my case, I moved to a whole different place whose culture was different from my culture. And so in order for you to help them very well, you needed to understand them, learn from them, and not impose things on them. So you use their solutions, how they do things, to actually help them. It will help. And you should also be very adaptable to change. In our case, we realized the content we created would not help them. It wasn't relatable for them. So we had to iterate. So these kind of projects are more of iterative process. And so we shouldn't be like we failed. Whenever it doesn't work, we should be able to go back and iterate, pivot, and then move on. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We look forward to hearing more at some point this year about all the work that you're doing. And hopefully at some point we can actually all see each other in person. That would be amazing. So I just want to thank our audience for joining us today, and have a good rest of your day or have a good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Thank you very much.